Fall had come early to the island of Sodor. The trees were turning from green to red and brown, and it was colder too. Henry the Green Engine had been carrying freight across the island several locations. Sometimes he'd help Edward on his branch line. The bridges had been mended so they can now support bigger engines.
You do have a lovely branch line, Edward.
Just then, the fat controller arrived.
Good evening, you two. You've both done a good day's work. I'm very impressed.
Thank you, sir.
Now I have a job for one of you. There is an old line running through a dead forest. It is in need of restoration. I'd like one of you to take the goods train to the station by the lake tomorrow night so the workmen will have their supplies when they arrive in the morning.
Is this the line that runs by Gorsufflin?
It indeed is.
Oh, well...
I'll do it, sir.
Yes, Henry's the engine for the job.
And that's settled then. Are you all right, Edward?
Yes, I'm just a little bit tired, that's all. Old iron me, you know how it is.
Well, you've both done superbly today. Now get a good night's rest.
And with that, he departed for his house.
What's wrong with you tonight?
Nothing. Everything's fine.
You're afraid of something, aren't you?
No, Henry, I told you, I'm perfectly fine, just a little skittish today, that's all.
I know! You're afraid of the dark! Of course! That's why you didn't want to take the train.
Rubbish, Henry. You know I take my night train every Tuesday.
Henry only laughed and puffed away. As Edward came back to the shed that evening, Henry was telling the other engines about what happened. Gordon and James were both quite amused. Thomas and Percy paid no attention.
Afraid of the dark, Edward?
No! Henry's just telling you rubbish. I'm not scared of the dark. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to go to sleep in my very dark shed.
James, Gordon, and Henry all chuckled. Thomas and Percy were cross.
Shut your big mouth, Henry. No one likes you.
Exactly.
The next morning, Henry left to do his jobs, leaving Thomas, Percy, and Edward alone in the shed. The two tank engines noticed that Edward looked uneasy. They were both concerned.
Are you all right, Edward?
Yes, I'm doing well.
But he obviously wasn't.
There's something on your mind. What is it?
Oh, just about where Henry's working tonight.
The two tank engines were puzzled. Edward, what are you talking about? Tell us, please. Edward sighed.
What I am about to tell you, no one else must hear. All right?
We promise.
Right then. That line is haunted. There is a dark tale associated with it. I'll tell you the whole story as best I can.
Thomas and Percy listened, and this is the story Edward told. The year was 1894, very long after the fall of the last Sudrian king. Over 75% of the population spoke English. The other 25% were the native Sudrics, who mostly hated the English and tried to force them off the island, thus starting the Sudrian Revolution. During the time, the English Sudrians had built the Sodor and Mainland Railway. It was operated by very small, green boxy engines. One of the stations was at a small hamlet called Gorsufflin. It was mainly used for goods, but also had some passenger services. Many farmers would load their goods here to be taken to Kirk Ronan and shipped off. However, since Gorsufflin was a Sudric town, the farmers tried to prevent British engines coming on their soil during the Revolution. Eventually, they threatened to shoot any engine and crew that trespassed onto their turf. The leader of this embargo was Guto Chwilderodl, a pure Sudric who was very proud of his culture and would do anything to keep Sodor from Britain. He was a very intimidating man, always wearing a dark coat and hat, and always carried a cane. One day, news broke out that a hostage had been taken at Gorsufflin. Of course, this wasn't true, but the British were quick to take action. They loaded the coaches full of armed men and had one of the little green engines push them to Gorsufflin for a nighttime ambush. Unfortunately, there was a huge amount of mist. Chwilderoddle had been keeping guard of the station that night. An owl hooted in a tree nearby, and he started hearing the chuffing sounds of an engine. He grabbed his gun and ran onto the rails, which was a huge mistake. He was shot dead by British soldiers. Everyone else in the village surrendered after seeing their leader dead. As a punishment, they were forced out of the village. The village was soon demolished, but the station was kept intact as a monument for the skirmish. Sometime later, the trees all suddenly died. No one knows what happened. One theory suggests they were poisoned by the smoke from the steam engines. Another theory suggests that a deadly fungus infected the soil. Whatever happened, no one had ever bothered to replant them, as the line was rarely used anymore. Now, there is a legend saying that whenever an owl hoots, a mist rolls into that old line, and then the ghost of Guto Chwilderoddle emerges from the abandoned Gorsufflin station. He tries to get his revenge he never got when he was alive, meaning anyone he catches is never seen again.
And that is the tale of the ghost of the old station.
Thomas and Percy were speechless. But Edward, it's only a story.
Exactly. That historical part really happened, but there's no such things as ghosts.
It is as real as trains with faces.
The three engines were silent for the remainder of the day. That evening, Henry was at Wellsworth getting his train ready. Edward plucked up courage and decided to warn Henry.
Whenever that owl hoots, a mist rolls in. There's a legend that when the mist's about, there's a ghost about too.
Oh, shut up, Edward.
Take care on the old line, Henry.
Ha! Stupid bird.
And with that, puffed away.
Owls, mists, ghosts. Edward's going soft in the boiler.
More like drunk in the head.
Exactly. There's no mist.
But Henry was wrong. The line was covered in a blanket of fog. Henry found it rather spooky.
What's that?
Why, it's an amber lamp. That means proceed with caution. Who's there? No one replied. Let's just go on. So Henry crept slowly forward. But he soon stopped in front of a tree. It had a sign nailed to it, "Beware of the viaduct." The driver was surprised. No one warned us about that before, and look! The signal's red, and the gates are closed. And there's a frogman's coat. But where's its owner? You really need to work on your stuttering. But he suddenly stopped laughing as they saw a light move within the station building.
Ghost! Edward was right!
What the hell's going on here? I don't know, but something very strange is happening. Just then, they could hear a faint voice in the distance. They couldn't make out what it was saying, but it was very haunting. I think it's best we go back.
So do I!
And Henry hurried back to Wellsworth. The fat controller was about to get ready for bed when the butler came in.
Excuse me, sir, you are wanted on the telephone.
Who the bloody hell would be wanting something at this hour?
It was Henry's driver calling about the events at Gorsufflin.
I'll investigate this in the morning. But now, take Henry back to the shed and you can go home.
When Henry arrived back at the shed, the engines noticed he was as white as Harold and shaking all over.
Bless me, Henry. What happened?
Henry told him about what had happened. There was a long silence. Gordon finally broke it.
First the rain, then an elephant, and now a station. Whatever will you be afraid of next?
Probably just children fooling around. Those little rascals can be nasty.
But Henry didn't think so. It had been very real to him.
Well, I'm not going back on that line again.